Good morning, everybody, and welcome. So glad to see everyone here. Thanks for coming out. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marcia Funk, and I'm the director of the Greater Oklahoma City Parks and Trails Foundation. It's a 501c3, and our organization advocates for parks, trails, and public spaces. And we do that through events like today with education, advocacy, grant making, and we work with donors, cities, municipalities, any government agency. And we're glad to have you today to learn a little bit more about trails in Oklahoma City. First, I would like to thank our sponsors, because we couldn't do this without them. Lingo Construction, HAF, Oklahoma City Community Foundation, where we incubated as a 501c3, also Kirk Angel and Associates, and the Oklahoma Mountain Bike Association, and of course all of ours, the City of Oklahoma City, and all of the agencies. Thank you all so much. Let's give them a big round. Next, I'd like to introduce our board members who are here. Would you stand and let's give them a big round of applause. We're going to have our presentation first, then we'll have a short break, a short bio break for 5 minutes, and then we'll reconvene our panel. So I promise you'll get back to work on time, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vicki Howard, our board chair.
Hey, welcome everybody, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. This is our speaker series, and we have learned more from people like Gary Vernon to help us show us the way on parks and trails. So I'm very happy we're here, and thank you guys for coming and sharing your time. Gary Vernon from Northwest Arkansas, is that right? I always want to say Southeast, so I know it's not. Anyway, Gary is the Director of Outdoor Recreation and Trail Innovation for the Runway Group, and is considered one of the leading experts in developing mountain bike and trail systems. His work over the past decade has supported the vision of Steuart and Tom Walton by overseeing the design and construction of over 600 miles of world-class mountain bike trails and growing around, and it's still growing around the state of Arkansas and other locations. I think you've gotten out of Arkansas too, so anyway, his work includes the Oz Trail region of Northwest Arkansas, as well as the Arkansas State Parks Monument Trail projects, if y'all are familiar with that. In 2019, he was the recipient of the American Trail Chairman Award for advancing trail design and changing the landscape for trail systems. Very important. He was featured in the 2024 Arkansas Money and Politics 50 over 50 issue, recognizing his work around the state of Arkansas. His role has recently expanded to include other forms of outdoor recreation, which includes creating world-class climbing, paddling, and other outdoor recreation experiences, which we all up for that. His role has Gary has traveled around the US, Europe, UK, as well as Asia, sharing his knowledge with many different people from many different countries. He has been doing that for 15 years, I think we said. So please help me welcome Gary Vernon.
Good morning. You know, Oklahoma City is on a roll. I mean, the NBA championships, the Olympics. I got to hang out downtown last night. Wonderful restaurants, wonderful hotel, the Citizen Hotel. Probably one of the fanciest hotels I've been in a long time ago. man, if you guys would build some mountain bike trails, I'd think about moving here. Really. And I'm going to talk about just that. You know, I am from Joplin, Missouri, and this is me back in probably 1981 with my buddies from my neighborhood, and we started racing mountain bike or racing BMX, you know, on little BMX tracks. And my parents or my grandparents lived in Oklahoma City, on Northwest 28th and MacArthur is where they lived. So I grew up coming to Oklahoma City my entire life. My Vernon cousins lived in Mustang, so I take a little bit of responsibility for your success here. But anyway, what I did not know back in these days was when I would ride my bicycle with my buddies, when we build little tracks and jumps, I mean, we would try to outdo each other, and we would roam our neighborhood and even our city in Joplin. And what we were doing is learning social skills, getting out in nature and networking with other kids around the entire city. And heck, that was building a base of mental and physical health that I carry on today. So to me, I really feel that every community should have access to trails. I think that's really important. So I'm going to talk about what happened in Bentonville, which spread out to the entire Northwest Arkansas region, and now the state, that has improved the quality of life, and people are moving. 36 people a day are moving to Northwest Arkansas. 36 people a day on average. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So here I am. Started working at Walmart High School back in the 80s, building bicycles. Stayed there 30 years, and when you stay with Walmart long enough, you find your way to Bentonville. So that's what I did. But when and Bentonville is, just like you guys, we're in the middle of the U.S. It's really a perfect place to have outdoor recreation because you have 4 seasons, but you're not snowed in all winter. So and if you look at Arkansas, we're in the Ozark plateau, and the terrain is perfect for mountain biking. So what I did, I ran into a 23-year-old kid on a trail in Bentonville. Tom Walton had this vision when he came out of college back in 06 was to build a 5-mile trail system in Bentonville to kind of give back to the community, and he wanted a trail to ride. So I ran into him with my 10-month-old son on the trail, and my son now is 19, so do the math, it's been 18 years ago. But he had this vision to build a mountain bike trail, and it just was so successful, it went on and on and on. We'll talk about that. So here's this first 5-mile trail system. You look at the star, we're looking at the downtown area. So this was on the north side of Bentonville, 5 miles of trail, and when we discovered that was coming in, we were, the 12 of us who rode mountain bikes were really excited, and what a dream to have 5 miles of trail. If you rode it backward and forward, it was 10 miles. So that was a huge thing. But what happened over the years was that first 5 miles wasn't really beginner, and it wasn't really expert. It was kind of right in the middle. And we figured out that, man, a lot of people wanted to learn how to ride mountain bikes. So we really focused on the beginner. And what happened was we built a trail called the All-American. And now the All-American Trail connects our Bentonville Square all the way to that northern 5 miles of trail. And now that All-American goes all the way into Bella Vista. And that All-American is made for the brand new riders. It parallels our Razorback Greenway paved trail. So if you're a new rider and you want to get out on the dirt for a little bit and experiment and get back on pavement, then you can do that. So it is designed for the youngest new riders to, our folks that are riding in their 80s on mountain bikes. So it's pretty fun. So what happens if you build trails for beginners and have progression for all riders? Well, automatically you add diversity to our riders. And that naturally happened. That wasn't something we had to force. It just happened organically, and that's the best way to do it. So another thing is, if you're going to build 600 miles of trail, you got to get kids on bikes. So, because what happens in 20 years, there's nobody riding our trails. So what we've actively done is partnered with the state, and we have about 175 grade schools with kindergarten, first grade, Strider, balance bike programs. And the governor's wanting to continue on and put them in all of our grade schools around the state. So that is something really to think about, getting kids on bikes, because if you look at the statistics now, it's alarming how many kids will not learn how to ride a bike. And we learned pretty quickly, we were trying to put bike programs in middle schools. Now what is the most, Marcia, what's the most frightening thing to do in front of your peers is when you're 12 years old, is show them you can't ride a bike? So that you have to teach them in kindergarten. So we just learned that healthy activities build confidence. And it's, that's important. That's my son with his arms raised on top of the podium. Grayson has been a lifelong cyclist. He's 19 and he loves it. He's working at one of the bike shops in town. And he just thinks you should have trails, outside your door. I mean, he has, basically he's had new trails every week the entire life that he's been on this planet. So instead of adding a playground with a swing set, we're adding bicycle playgrounds. So we just keep trying to spread the word. And some of the things that we've discovered is, like in Bella Vista, those top two pictures in Bella Vista, and beautiful waterfalls, bluffs that were hidden away. You had no way to get to them unless you had them in the shade and bushwhacked away. But when you build 120 miles of trails throughout the entire Bella Vista network, then you access all this natural beauty. On the bottom left is an old schoolhouse in Bentonville that was hidden away. It was covered in shrubs and vines, and so we built a trail system around it, and then reconditioned that schoolhouse. Now it's an event center. This is a typical school in Bentonville. There's so many kids riding the mountain bike trails and the paved trails. The school, we don't have enough bike racks to hold all the bikes. So throughout the years, we've kind of learned some keys to building a world-class trail system. Well, this picture here is just a connector between Bentonville and Bella Vista. We just have some really fun natural terrain. So use that natural terrain to build a trail. And then recruit the best trail builders to create a positive, competitive atmosphere. We learn if you bring several builders together to build a network and put them in competition with each other, who's going to build the best trail? Like the back 40, we learned on the back 40, we used 5 different companies. We drove the prices down on the bid process. Plus, they would build all day, and then they'd ride their competitor's section, and they'd go back and make their section better. So the back 40 was actually better than it would have been if we hired one trail builder. And it is worth the investment to hire professionals to come in and build your trails. You will get your return on investment. We've done economic impact studies that show that you will bring back 10 times your money on a trail system and more. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But reward innovation, connect your communities. Bella Vista, if anybody been to Bella Vista and driven around, it's a network of curvy roads on ridge tops, and we built the trails down in the ravines, the worthless ravines. You can't develop anything in there. But if you were living in one neighborhood, and I live in Bella Vista, I could not get out of my neighborhood without getting on these curvy roads on a bike or walking. It was dangerous. But now we have 120 miles plus that you can take. My father-in-law lives 4 miles away, and we can ride single track trail to his house now. So the most important part again is creating trail systems for all skill levels. And what we've learned over the years is you don't need 120, or really, if you leave the Bentonville Square, we have 230 miles connected, but you need 12. 12 miles is that magic formula that creates that enough trail where your locals will use it regularly, and that's when we started seeing the visitors travel in from outside the region and visit. Anybody been visiting Bentonville for a while? Anybody been visiting for more than 5 years? More than 10 years? So you've seen the growth, right? I mean, in 2015, we started adding rocket fuel into our trail systems, but we didn't need more than, of course we need more than 12 miles, but 12 miles actually transformed our community. So what we did along the way is, because we had Tom Walton and the power of the foundation behind us, we got to really innovate trails. And so we had a lot of fun with it. We started building what we call memorable moments. And this is called the Masterpiece. This is on the north edge of the Crystal Bridges Museum, so it is a work of art. It's made of metal stone. and dirt. And then there's another picture. Bentonville Tourism uses that as one of their images for coming and playing in Bentonville. This is the rail yard. This is in Rogers. I think every community needs a rail yard, and Trosper Park needs a rail yard. And I didn't say this, but I went to Trosper Park last night and stood on the starting hill of that old BMX track, and I said, "How long has this track been here?" And somebody said the early '80s. I raced that track back in 1983. And I sent a picture to my close buddy that raced it with me. We could not believe. That's the only track left in our history of racing from 1980 to 85. And that's the only track left. That's a museum piece for me. But this is the rail yard, and it is asphalted. You have a really neat version of this over there at your, what's the name of the park? River Sport Park. You've got a really neat park. But this is a little bit different. It's got a 30-foot starting mound, and it's got a bunch of flow trail, and it's asphalted, and it's made for all skill levels. I think every community should have this, and you need to have one of these as well. This right here, it's got LED lighting, so the kids will ride it till 10 at night, in the summer and winter. This gets kids outside. This gets kids off their screens. This gets kids to learn how to handle bikes. This also teaches adults how to handle bikes because it has a beginner little downhill flow trail all the way to a pro level with all of that progression in between, and that's very important, that progression. We built a castle in north of Bentonville, and it's just basically a circular ride up, and then you have these wooden drawbridges you roll down, and that's been a big hit. And what we've learned, if you build fun, memorable places like this, then you automatically market your town and your trails because everybody Instagrams their picture on it. So you save hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing your community. Kohler Mountain Bike Preserve. Anybody been to Kohler? Several people. That was an experiment. It's a 300-acre linear park with a creek going down the side of it, and it's probably one of the neatest properties in Bentonville. But it's turned into a mountain bike and hike and just place to go and get away from the city. And one of the big, I first joined the Walton Family Foundation in 2015, and this was like project number one, big project number one. And we sat around a table with our architects and our trail designers and our artists and talked about what do we have in Kohler? Well, we have an old barn that the family in the 1930s built with their homestead. What if we built a restaurant, cafe, coffee shop? But you can't drive to it, it'd be in the middle of the park. And of course we're in America, we have to drive through to get our coffee, So this was a big gamble. And so this actually was going to open up, and it was literally going to open up March of 2020. And you know what happened in March of 2020. So we delayed the opening, and then the airship coffee owner, Mark Ray, decided he was going to lease out the place and put his coffee shop in there. November of 2020. Going into the winter, still COVID. I'm like, Mark, what are you going to do? Just open weekends or Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays? He's like, no, I've got to be open 7 days a week. If you got to walk or bike to this place, it's a minimum of a 1.5 mile walk to this restaurant. I've got to be open 7 days a week. This is now his highest volume of his 5 locations. This is highest volume. And what happened that grand opening week was the mothers with strollers and their kids on their little balance bikes would walk the greenway down, and it was COVID, they wanted to get outside, and so all day long the bikers and hikers would do it, but the morning business was the mothers with strollers. We didn't even think about that. So this is on a Tuesday afternoon, there'll be 50 people hanging out at this coffee shop every day, every week. And then some weekends, you gotta wait in line for a while to get your coffee. But this is a home run. That's kind of the anchor of the experience of Kohler, but it's got 22 miles of world-class trails on the 300 acres, and again, made for all skill levels. And then here's the hub. This is up above the coffee shop on the highest peak, and this is where the advanced riders ride. And then you can jump over your friends on drop of hand. So it's all about building progression, but also having those iconic things that everybody wants to aspire to. So after building out trails in Bentonville, then the rest of the region, hey, we want trails in Fayetteville, we want more trails. In Springdale, you saw the video with all the community trails. And we got a fan back there, Keith. But what do you do when you have a region? You want to brand. We want to do something. We don't want Bentonville to compete with Fayetteville. We want to have a brand for the region. Let's compete with the big boys. Let's go after the Colorado destinations. Let's go after Moab, Utah. So it was decided, let's brand the region, because that way, it's hard to promote 12 miles of trails, but it's a little easier to say come and ride 50, or 60, and now, more. So we had a marketing company come, and they did what they did. They spent 2 weeks taking pictures and experiencing our trails, and they came back, and about a month later, they delivered a package, and it had a bunch of horrible ideas. Northwest Arkansas Trails was one of them. But they did have the Oz Trails brand, and they had this really cool emblem and brand, and we're like, wow, that kind of rings a bell. We're a little worried about MGM coming to get us, but we went for it anyway. So the Oz brand became our regional brand, and so now it is. We're kind of tagging onto it, and if anybody's been watching the news, we've got a new lift access bike park with a lift that actually takes you to the top, and it's going to open up. It's going to be called the Oz Trails Bike Park, and it's really the first branded destination we have. Oz has kind of been this mysterious regional brand. Everybody asks, what is Oz? Well, now we're going to have a location that's going to be branded Oz. It'll open up this time next year. It'll be up and running. So there's Steuart on the left, there's Tom on the right, and they've been the masterminds and the funders behind this, and we are so fortunate they're not golfers. But in 2016, we were kind of the best kept secret from really 2007 when those 5 miles opened until about 16. People were hearing strange things, and we had a few articles come out about our Slaughter Pin Trail, and Slaughter Pin Trail, what is that? And Slaughter Pin Trail, if anybody knows, the valley that Slaughter Pin Trails are, that was an old slaughterhouse. And the road that goes through the Slaughter Pin Trails was Slaughter Pin Road. Now it's Northeast 8. But Tom just wanted to call it Slaughter Pin because he thought it was a cool name. The branding team at the city of Bentonville would never let that fly now. But it's like we don't even, people like Slaughter Pin, it sounds dangerous, but it's now just become an iconic name. But in 2016, we had the International Mountain Bike Association's World Summit. We had all this magazine articles come out. So really 2016 is really when Bentonville became known around the world. And after all of this anecdotal, we know something was going on with people. We'd see license plates from outside the region. Colorado was coming to see us. That was crazy, So it was like, okay, something's going on here. Let's study it. And we became a world destination. I actually had, in 2018, I got connected with a guy from Norway on email. So Lars Jensen, who's now a good friend of mine, he called me and he said, hey, I have been hired by the country of Norway. If you know, Norway's got some oil money. He said, I've been hired by the country to strategize building mountain bike trails around our country. And I've been doing my research, and we're coming to Bentonville. I'm bringing 9 people to Bentonville because we think you guys are doing it the best. So something was going on. So we did an economic impact study, and this is our second one. We did another one 2 years ago, and the trail systems that are built in Northwest Arkansas return $159 million each year. Okay? Think about that. And trails are cheap compared to building an NBA stadium. Just a little bit of that money. Maybe not build another little snack bar or something. Trail system. But so what was going on in Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas got the attention of our state. And so, really fortunately, we had the right state parks director start when I started with the Walton Family Foundation in 2015. Grady Spann became the director of state parks, and he and I got together and started talking about Well, we know if we when we built these trails within the city limits, people were riding them, but they weren't going out to the national forest out in the middle of nowhere anymore, because we actually have trail counters, and we knew how many people ride Bentonville trails versus the national forest. And just to give you an idea, in 2019, we had 6 trail counters in Bentonville that counted 862,000 trips on trails just in Bentonville, 862,000. That was 2019. 2020 was 1.5 million on those same 6 counters. Something happened in 2020 to get people outside, and they still come out even more. So that it was decided, instead of wasting any time building trails in the middle of the national forest in the middle of nowhere, let's partner with state parks. They have cabins, camping. In a lot of cases, they have a lodge with a restaurant. Let's just add trails to these beautiful parks. They're some of the best terrain. So that's where this Monument Trail program, and that's Mount Nebo. Has anybody been to Mount Nebo? One of my favorite places in the world. And that's the view from Mount Nebo. So we decided to brand these state park trails, monument trails. And what a monument trail is, it's a world-class trail in a state park in Arkansas. It's using the best trail builders in the world. It's, again, offering all skill levels, and then a modern approach. We're building, the features, the plazas, the trailheads are all just beautiful works of art. So what that has done to their visitation in the parks is exponential. Our old school state parks team and some of the politicians thought we need a visitor center. We need to build another $12 million visitor center. Well, I don't know anybody who would drive from Oklahoma City to a state park to see a new visitor center, except to use the restroom, right? That's all we do in the visitor center. But the trails have absolutely changed the outlook on parks. So what do you do when you build all these trails? Well, they're free to ride, right? The one barrier if you want a mountain bike is the price of the bike. So a nonprofit started in 2014 called Pedal It Forward. And raise your hand if you've got a bike that's been hanging or sitting in your garage untouched for a year, right? So what Pedal It Forward does is go out and grab those bikes from you and clean them up, fix them up, and give them away. They give away 1,500 to 2,000 bikes a year. So if anybody they've even given them away to the 4-state area. So if anybody in Oklahoma wants a bike and they can't afford one, they can get a bike. And so that's really helped, again, that diversity of ridership. NICA, has anybody heard of NICA? That's the High School Mountain Bike League. And that is a game changer. So in Arkansas, we have over 1,000 kids that race for their schools. And that is really phenomenal that, some kids would rather ride bikes and play ball sports, but to wear their school uniform, to school and then race for their school is a big deal. So my daughter is second to from the right there, Abby, and when she was, birth till she was 11, I was the most important thing in her life. 12, 13, I was no longer necessary. But when she started racing mountain bikes, I became important to me. This actually brought us back together because she needed somebody to fix her bike. Women of Oz, that organization has taught over 5,000 women to ride mountain bikes. And they have regular events where they'll just have a monthly ride, 200 women show up. And it's crazy. If you don't know about the Women of Oz, and you ride on one of their monthly rides, if you ride in Slaughterton on one of their monthly events, you think that Bentonville's a planet of women, because it's nothing but women out riding our trails. It's pretty amazing. We have a full-time fire department bike patrol, and that they patrol our trails. And the response time is sometimes seconds. They're out there and they hear about an incident, they're on it. So with all of this, what's next for Arkansas? Well, we talked about we're going to put a lift access bike park in Bella Vista, but also the state of Arkansas is going to spend $40 million on a lift access bike park in the town of Mena. Now, Mena is 5,000 people, and it's got the Ouachitas right behind it. And you watch Mena. This is going to be a case study on what adding trails to a community will do. And the entire community of Mena is excited about it because they have a little bit of tourism, economy there because they have that scenic byway, Highway 88, but they know that this lift access bike park is going to bring them in. This is going to be, the world will come to meet it because this will be a 1,200-foot elevation bike park, meaning there'll be downhill trails for miles, and they'll have world events there, and World Cup downhill events and all kinds of things. So this is going to change the outlook of Mena, and people are already buying property there to invest in that town. Rock climbing has become a big asset for Arkansas. So following the formula of mountain biking, add beginner areas all the way to pro areas, and teach people how to do it. Paddling, we have 96 miles of river, creeks, and streams if you ask our game and fish team, and 600,000 acres of lakes. So we're definitely using our water sports for an economic engine. And then we also started a trail building trade school in our Bentonville Community College. So we have the only accredited trail building school in the world. We actually used our European partners to help us build a curriculum. So this is recognized worldwide as a curriculum. So if you can learn in our community college how to build trails, you can be hired in Europe. Has anybody heard about the Ledger? That's the world's first rideable building. You can ride to the 6th floor of this building on a ramp outside the building, and that's where we're bringing in the bike industry. We're really trying to bring in and make Bentonville a hub for outdoor recreation with really a focus on cycling. So this has been really good. Walmart is the business in Bentonville, but hey, we want to make sure that we are Walmart proof. If Walmart, say in 20 years, isn't Walmart anymore, we want Bentonville to be a strong economy forever. So we're going to make Bentonville and the surrounding area an outdoor recreation hub for the industry. And Walmart has built a new campus, and it's right in the middle of Bentonville, and it's going to have 3.5 miles of mountain bike trail on the campus. And a 30-year Walmart guy that used to work in a warehouse for the home office, this is a big deal. This campus is beautiful. So we believe that every community should have access to trail. And we talked about that 12-mile number is kind of a magical number. And if you think about the investment for 12 miles, on average, 12 miles is an investment of $350,000. I mean, that's a couple of parking spaces in a parking garage, really. So bottom line is trails preserve green space. They get kids outside off the screens. They build community pride. I mean, hey, when I used to go to Arkansas when I used to go to Colorado and said I was from Arkansas, they felt sorry for me. Now they envy me when I go to the bike shops in Arkansas. Basically a natural wellness program for all. They derive economic impact with a huge return on investment, and they create environmental stewardship. So you guys need to get on this trail running. Because remember that 5 miles of trail turned into 40, and then now that 5 miles, that's Slaughter Pen Phase 1, that's green. That's all of Bella Vista. And of course, this map is old, so it's not even showing all of it, but you don't need this much trail, but you need it. Oklahoma City, with your population, you need to connect your community. You need to put trails through the corridors of your downtown area and connect to Trosper. You need to expand Trosper. I mean, again, you're going to get people to want to live here. You've got a beautiful city. You just need trails. So thank you.
Let's take a quick 5-minute break and then reconvene for our panel discussion.